Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Sabrina, and today we'll be doing an intro to web development course. I'm super excited to have y'all here. So today I'm going to share a little bit about me. So that's my technical background, what I like in tech, what I do in tech. Then we'll talk about web development theory. So that's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and HTTP. And then we'll actually write some code. Here I said Replit, but you feel free to use any IDE that you're comfortable with. So I will actually be using CodePen. And then to conclude, I'm going to share with you some resources that you can use to keep learning more about web development and this kind of coding, okay? So that's what we're gonna be doing today. Alrighty, so about me, get to know your teacher for the day. My name is Sabrina 𝙎𝘼𝘽𝙍𝙎. I'm a new college grad. I graduated college last May, so that's like 2 or 3 months ago. I'm starting as an engineer at NVIDIA in literally 2 weeks, so I'm really excited about that. I'm a 2-time coding bootcamp TA, so I've helped people learn how to code before, and I absolutely love doing that. In fact, I love it so much that I have an Instagram called Brina's Code, where you can follow me and get more coding tips or web development tips. Okay, so now let's get right into it. Let's talk about web development theory. So why is it needed? What is it? And how do we do web development? Okay. So the why is that we needed to find a standardized way of creating web pages for the web to enable communication. Okay, that probably didn't make sense at first glance, right? But what I'm really saying is that anytime a new innovation comes up, if we want that innovation to be worldwide, if we want that innovation to really grow and spread, then we have to find a way to make it easily accessible to people. And we need to find a way to make people collaborate in ways that they can understand each other. Let me give you a more practical example. So think of the driving system and the roads, right? So it's a standardized system because I could go to France today, or I could go to South Africa or any other country, and I could still understand how to drive because road signals are the same, road signs are the same. I know that red means stop, orange means, caution, green means go. So all these things are standardized, and that's why we can easily go to different countries and still drive. If we didn't have that, you would have to learn a new system anytime you go to a new country, and the world wouldn't really, be as developed as it is now if everyone had to do that anytime they traveled. So in the same way with the internet, when the internet started becoming a big thing, people had to find a way to make it easily understood to everyone who is participating in the internet. So if you want to be a developer, you have to use HTML, or you have to use CSS or JavaScript. It was a standard so that no one could write their own code that would work on a different browser, and then someone else would come up with a different browser, and everyone would just be confused and it would be a big mess. So the reason the internet was able to grow so well is because of standards. And that's why web development is necessary, because it's our way of doing things in a very organized way on the internet. So what it is, so web development is the solution to that problem. And it basically comprises the standards, tools, and languages that make up the internet. Okay, so when we talk about browsers, networking on the internet, web pages, forms, servers, all of that makes up web development. Okay. So hope you understood this part, because now we're going to talk about how it actually works. So the building blocks of the web are HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and HTTP, okay? I like to think of HTML as the body of a web page or a website or a web app or a mobile app, or it can be used in so many different ways. Okay, so HTML is the body. It gives you the basic structure. So you can't really have a website usually without some sort of HTML involved in the background. Then there's CSS. So CSS is the clothing. So at first we have a body and then we add some clothes. So CSS is the styling. So without CSS, you see like old school web pages that only have like a white background, black text, and that's literally it, like pages from the 1900s. That's what you see when you don't have CSS. But when you have CSS, you can start adding colors in the background, beautiful borders, just anything that really spices up the website. Okay. Now, the next thing is JavaScript. JavaScript is the soul of the website. So with HTML and CSS, you can have a pretty site, but with JavaScript, you can have a lively site. You can have a site that has more interaction or like character or soul. So JavaScript is what like will show you a pop-up when you go on a website, or when you click a form and it submits the form. A lot of that is done in JavaScript. So when a website has some JavaScript, you can really sense that it's more interesting. And HTTP would be, in our analogy, in our body analogy, it would be the ability to move and to go places. So without HTTP, you have a website on your computer by yourself. That might be what you're going into, but most of us want our websites to be seen by other people on the internet. And so HTTP is the networking aspect of web dev. And that's what allows us to have links to other websites, or to be able to transfer stuff or redirect stuff or submit a form or create an account. All of that is handled by HTTP. So I hope you understood this really well, because now I want to ask you guys a question. You don't have to unmute yourself if you don't want to, that's fine, but go ahead if you want to. But quick pop quiz, what is HTML and what is CSS? In the comments, let me see who's paying attention. Hello. Are you guys not paying attention? Okay. Hypertext markup language and cascading style sheets. Awesome job, Remo. Thanks so much for actually saying that, because you just reminded me that I didn't say what they actually stand for. So that's a great thing that you did. So thank you. So HTML stands for hypertext markup language, and CSS stands for cascading style sheets. JS is JavaScript, and then HTTP is hypertext transfer protocol. And so awesome. So you win this point. Great job. So HTML is the body, CSS is the clothing, JS is the soul, and HTTP is the movement or the ability to go places. Okay. So now let's continue. So now we're going into our Replit portion, or actually I'm going to use CodePen, but we're going in our lab portion of this workshop. And the first thing we're going to cover is HTML. So before I even get to that, let me just give you a preliminary of what we're going to be doing there. So we'll be talking about tags a lot, because tags run the show in HTML. Everything is about a tag. Tags can also be nested. So just like, with the Russian dolls, you can have tags and tags and tags and tags, or like boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes. So tags are nested in order to allow HTML to be what it is. And we also have attributes that are really important in HTML. Attributes describe tags, or they give options to tags. So we'll see this in just a second. So, oops, I'm going to share my screen. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop sharing this, and we're going to go into CodePen. CodePen is a really cool website that you can go in to quickly start coding. It doesn't have a lot of overhead going on, so you can easily start something in CodePen and have something to show your friends or your family or your colleagues. And the first thing we're going to do now is HTML. Okay, I'll show you a few tags that you can use in HTML. Another word that I'll be using a lot is the word syntax. So in English, we have grammar and we have vocabulary. So when I talk about grammar, you know that I'm talking about the rules that make English what it is, and vocabulary are the words we use to speak English, right? So in coding languages and programming languages, there's a word called syntax, which essentially means the coding language that you're using. So the syntax for HTML is usually you open up a tag like this, and then you close it, okay? So the first tag we're going to be covering is H1, and I'll explain to you what it does. So the way to do it is you open with the less than symbol, you put an H1 like this, and then you close it with the same symbol, /1, H1, like that, and then you close it. And that's a tag. So tags must be opened and they must be closed. Now, anything you put in the middle of this will be under the influence of that tag. So that's how things happen. So anything I put in between this tag, inside this tag, will show up in a specific way. And what the H1 tag does is that it shows text big and bold. So I'll put hello world because that's like a classic thing that you do when you're coding. We always put hello world for some reason. So hello world. So now I'm going to show you guys a second tag. It's called an H2 tag. And it's basically going to look like an H1 tag, but a little bit smaller. So it's like a header 2 versus a header 1. So now I'm going to be like, hi, like that. And then I'm going to close it with the H2. Okay, so notice how it's slightly smaller than the H1 at the top, right? Okay. Then I'm going to do an H3. And as you're probably guessing, smaller. It's probably going to be a little smaller than H1 and H2 and H3. So this is just to show you that the way HTML works is that you have a tag and then you need to put something in between the tag. So inside of the tag in order to use it. Okay, so we have the H1, H2, H3. These are our tags, okay? Now we could go inside of CSS, but before we do that, I still want to show you guys some more tags that you can use in your websites. And I want you to think of tags like vocabulary. So when you're young, you know how to say mommy, daddy, happy, sad, I don't know, hungry. So you know how to say words that communicate your intent as a child. And then as you grow up, you learn how to string sentences, and you learn how to write, you learn how to read. So your vocabulary expands. So there's more stuff that you can communicate. Like you can talk about personal issues. You can talk about, the state of the world. Like there's so much you can talk about when you have more vocabulary. So in the same way, in HTML or in any programming language, there's always something you can do from the basics. So from the get-go. So like right now, you know how to do tags in HTML. This doesn't necessarily mean that you can build Facebook like today or Instagram. But as you keep going and you learn more vocabulary, you can put things together in a more, like astounding way. So I don't want you to neglect the humble beginnings, because it's really important to enjoy learning how to code from the get-go. Don't try to learn everything all at once. So that's why we're starting with really modest tags right now, okay? But that being said, I want to show you how to show an image in HTML. So the way to do that is by using the image tag. So anytime you want to do something, there's a tag for that. So remember the Apple commercial, there's an app for that. So in HTML, there's a tag for that. If you want to do something, just try to figure out what tag is for that. If you don't know, you could literally Google how to show an image on HTML. Developers don't always know everything, so Googling is your best friend. But most of us happen to know how to show an image, and that's something that you might want to know by memory, even though you shouldn't know everything by memory. So the way to do that is to put IMG, which stands for image, then a slash like that. So image / close. This is a self-closing tag. So unlike the other tags that we just covered, this one is actually self-closing. So you don't need to do this. So we don't do this. We don't do image / image close. You don't need to do that. So you just leave it, you let it be by itself, and you close it on its own. And as you're seeing, there's nothing showing, and that's because we didn't tell the tag what. In order to do that, we need to put src equals, and then in between those quotes, we're going to put the image address. src in this case is called an attribute. Attributes are what we just talked about here previously. So remember, I said that attributes describe tags and give them options. So anytime you have a tag and you see something, this like little piece of text somewhere in between, that means that this is an attribute and it's telling the tag to do something. So the image tag has a source attribute that tells it to show a picture. So what we're going to do now is go on Let's go on Google Images. Okay, let's go on Google Images and let's show a picture of, what do we show? Let's say flowers. Okay, so let's pick a picture of a flower. So I like this bouquet, it looks really pretty. So if I want to get the image address of this picture, I do a right click and then I do copy, not link address, but image address. So not the link, but the image. So where the image actually is on the internet. So I'll copy that address and then I will put it here. I will paste it here and the image should show up. Okay. And now we have our pretty bouquet on our website. So this is literally how you can show images in HTML. If you want to show pictures on your computer, there's a different way to do that we're not going to cover today. But for the time being, this should work. You can just pick pictures on the internet and just show them in your website like this. Okay. I think this is, actually, I'll show you one more tag in HTML. That's a very common tag that you'll see a lot. It's the P tag. Okay. So P stands for paragraph. You put P, you close it, then you close it like that. And now anything that goes inside will be under the influence of the P tag. P tags are used for paragraphs. So if you want to write random text that shouldn't be bolded or special, just text on a website, you might want to use the P tag for that. So I'm just going to put random text because I'm not about to write a novel right now. Just random text here. And as you can see, it looks a little different, okay? So I think we've covered enough HTML to know about CSS. So we're gonna go right into CSS because we have about 10 to 15 minutes left. Okay, if you remember what I said earlier, HTML is the body, CSS is the clothing, the styles, the jewelry, all that extra stuff, right? Now, the first rule of CSS is that you must access a tag. So you can't put clothes in the air and expect it to look like something. It needs to be put on a body or on a doll or on something, right? So you can't do CSS in the void. You need to choose a tag in your HTML and then say, this is how I want to style this thing. So the first tag that we have is our H1 tag that says hello world. And that's the first thing we're gonna style. Now, there are many, many ways of styling things. So I could literally style the tag directly inside, or I could put it here. There are many ways, guys. So as you keep learning web development, you'll see multiple ways. But the way I'm going to do that will be a very simple way to get us started. And it's by giving our, oh my gosh, my mouse is acting up. I'm so sorry. My mouse is being annoying. Okay, let me turn it off and on. Okay, so a very simple way to do that is by giving our tag a class, okay? So I'll say class equals something. So I like to think of a class as kind of like a family name, okay? So there could be multiple people in the same family. So that's what classes are, right? So I can say that this tag is going to have a class of main header. Let's call it main header. Main header, because it kind of is, right? It's, you know, let's change it from hello world to welcome to our website. Make it a little more official. Okay, so that's the main header and it says welcome to our website. So this is an attribute called a class and it gives your tag a family name, kind of. So we'll say, hey, this tag has the class of main header. So now if we want to style it, we go to CSS and we do dot main header. So dot the name of the class. Oops, I was gonna put main class, main header, and then you put curly braces like this. Side of these curly braces, you put your style. So all of this stuff is called syntax. It's just the grammar. That's just Grammarly for you. That's how things work, right? So you put the dot, it means you're referencing a class. You put the name of the class, and then inside you can start putting your styles. So one style is color, okay? And as you're probably guessing, it's going to change the color of our website, of the tag. I'm sorry. So now it's black. By default, things are usually black. We'll say, so it can match our bouquet. Let's just say orange. Okay. So notice how this changed. That's because we put the color style and then we said orange, and then you have to close it with a semicolon. So we can also apply other styles like font family. So the font family is going to change the font of our text. So we can say Arial because Arial is a really basic one that usually applies. So I'm not sure if you saw this change, but something happened here. It looks a little different. Let me see if I remember any other from the top of my head. So I know there's Helvetica. Did it change anything? It did not. So I'm just going to bring you back to Arial. I don't know a lot of fonts off the top of my head. Okay. And then there's another style called text decoration. Okay. As you're probably thinking, it's going to decorate the text. So text decoration, let's say underline. Okay. And now you're probably like, wow, that's a lot to remember. Like, how in the world am I going to remember all these styles and all this stuff? Now I want you to think of web development kind of like language. So you don't know all the words in the universe. You don't know everything in the dictionary. That's why the dictionary is there. We're not expected to know all this stuff off the top of our heads, right? So when you don't know something, you go to the dictionary, and I'll show you how to do that for web development. So there are many online dictionaries that you can refer to, but one that I particularly like is called W3 Schools. So I usually just go there anytime I need something. So you go to references and they'll tell you, like they have almost everything that you might be looking for. So let's go here and let's say that I'm looking for how to, let's say font family. Let me see all the other fonts that I need. Okay, this is not a good search, guys. Let's just do it on Google, okay? So I'll put I'll put CSS font family W3 schools. That's usually how I do it. Okay, then I'll come here. And they'll show you so many things that you could put as options. So see, they're telling us that you can put Times New Romans, you can put Arial, you can put Helvetica. There's so many things that you can put inside of that property. So if you need anything, these are all styles, okay? These are all CSS styles. Look, background color, border. If you want to do something, you just look here to see what's even possible. This shows you your possibilities for different CSS attributes or properties, okay? So let's add another style to this hi. And if I want to use these styles in this tag, all I have to do is to give it the same family name, which is class. So if I call it main header as well, it's going to have the same exact styles because we defined our styles here. So anywhere, anything that has that family name is going to look like that. So if I change it from orange to, let's say, pink to match our theme, they're both going to change together. If we don't want them to change together, then they probably shouldn't be having the same family name. So let's just give this one a different class, okay? So let's, instead of calling it main header, let's call it subheader. So now look, one is going to be pink and then the other one is going to go back to the default, which is black, because all of a sudden they're not related anymore. So what we can do is just give the subheader its own styles so that we can clearly see that they're two separate things. So here I'm going to say color instead of pink. I'm going to say orange again. Put that semicolon. And then let me think of another style that I can do. So there's font family, there's text decoration. I guess we can use border. Solid, let's see. Okay, so border is another style that you can use. And if you want to know what kind of styles you can use, just go to W3 School, and these are all the styles that are possible in CSS. So you can learn them and then apply them and have your pages look really beautiful. And for each property, because these little thingies are called properties. So for each property, there are values. So this is a property. The property is called color. The value is called pink. The property is font family. The value is Arial. So if you want to see what properties are available, then you go here. And they'll also show you what values are available. So what you can basically do with your styles, okay? So that's a little bit about CSS. We don't have a lot more time, so I'm just going to briefly cover JavaScript. We won't be getting into HTTP today, actually. But so let's just cover this real quick. So we just talked about how CSS must be applied to a tag. We can use class and ID to style. We haven't covered ID today, but that's okay. Just like class is a way of giving things a family name, ID is usually what you would use if you want to style something individually. So ID is kind of like your social security or your passport number or your driver's license number. ID is for one thing, and then class is the family name that multiple elements on your page can have. So here, I might want to use ID instead of class because I don't think we're going to have multiple main headers on a page. We're probably going to have only one, right? So instead of class, we can use ID, okay? So instead of that, we're going to use ID. Now notice something. These are both going to go back to black. And that's because in CSS, if you want to style an ID, you don't use dot, but you use the hashtag. Like you use the hashtag. So when you're dealing with classes, you put period. When you're dealing with IDs, you put the hashtag. So that's how you use the ID, okay? And 3 places to place styles. We did not cover this today because I think that's a little bit advanced, but that's okay. Feel free to look this up later. So now JavaScript gives our page a little bit of soul, okay? So there's variables, alerts, console logs. Unfortunately, we don't have time to cover everything. So I'll show you something really simple in JavaScript. If you want to make something pop up on the page, you put an alert, and then you put quotes, and then inside of that alert, you say something. See? Right now, there's nothing, so it's sending me empty text, but I just did that, okay? By the way, I did that. So, hey, I'm Sabrina. And then you save. Look, hey, I'm Sabrina. So that's a way of just flashing things on the page. And that's the kind of stuff that JavaScript is in charge of. It's also in charge of submitting forms on modern websites. What else? Pop-ups. If there's, instead of an alert, we could do a prompt. So a prompt would be where someone can actually say something. So say something. See? Okay, wait. It's not letting me type. Say something. Okay, look. So now I can say something. So this is the kind of stuff you can do with JavaScript. Now someone could actually say something. And then later you can save whatever they said in a container and then do stuff with it. So we're not getting into that, but don't worry, I have resources in case you want to keep going further and you've enjoyed this workshop. There are resources for you. I highly recommend W3 Schools, which I just showed you. So this website right here, if you want to know what you can do in HTML or CSS, just go here to see the properties. Now that you know how to use the syntax, which is the grammar, just come here to learn more vocabulary to see just what your limits are and what can be done, okay? Another resource that I highly recommend is codeacademy.com. There you can self-learn, you can teach yourself how to code. They have tutorials on HTML and CSS with like examples and like a window where you can write code and then it'll correct it for you. I highly recommend it. I still use Code Academy for a lot of things that I want to learn. Usually it'll be the first place I go when I want to learn something new. And then, of course, my Instagram, shameless plug here. I share coding tips and web development tips and tricks, as well as productivity tips, tech lifestyle content. So feel free to follow me on Instagram at Brina's Code. And I also think you should check out these amazing YouTubers that I actually know personally, except this one, but he's absolutely amazing. So James Q Quick that I've worked with, Danny Thompson that I've also worked with, Maya Loves Code that I know from Instagram, and then Coding with Mosh, who's an absolutely great teacher on YouTube to learn how to code. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this workshop. I know it was very quick. I wish we could go more in depth on this, but I'm pretty sure that with these resources and with the knowledge of web development that you have now, you would probably want to continue, hopefully. And so thanks so much for having me. Feel free to email me at brinascode@gmail. You can also DM me on Instagram. And you can also go to my website, brinascode.com, to see the blogs that I write, because I love writing blogs and teaching coding. And yeah, you're welcome very much. This was my pleasure. I had a blast doing this. So thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions, I'm open to questions. And yeah, if you want to hang out, just hang out. If you want to go on and enjoy your hackathon, feel free to do that as well. Thank you.